foreigners who come to visit India say everything, they love the food, they love the culture, but the only thing that completely puts them off, and yes, you've guessed it, it is civic sense. Because special needs children themselves require to develop empathy because they are where they are in their mental faculties. Now, difficult question to ask, because when you talk about special needs, it really depends on whether they are capable of even understanding what empathy is. I have the right to speech, but if I am impinging on somebody's civic responsibilities, so individual rights and responsibilities are actually two very different things. Talking about a topic that touches each one of us, right? So this is going to be an interactive session. I hope all of you are ready with your pens and pencils. So today's topic is really a very critical one, isn't it? Because more and more as we move along, there is a new challenge that's completely damaging India's reputation. I can't tell you how many videos I've seen where foreigners who come to visit India say everything, they love the food, they love the culture, but the only thing that completely puts them off, and yes, you've guessed it, it is civic sense, right? Take a moment and think, is this true for you? Yes? All right. So give me a second. I'm going to show you a quick video on this very important topic.
In guruing what our civic authorities should have been doing, cleaning up garbage-filled streets, Serbian influencer Lazar, who runs the account For Clean India on Instagram, has launched a campaign called One Street a Day Till Independence Day. He says, Indians are among the cleanest people at home, but when it comes to public spaces, people think it's not their responsibility. About 40 expats and locals joined him on Sunday. The municipal corporation praised them as beacons of civic responsibility. But here's the real picture. Door-to-door garbage collection in Gurugram has dropped from 85% to just 59% in 1 year. Waste segregation is down to 10%. So the big question is, will it take outsiders to shame us into keeping our own cities clean? Why do we have such poor civic sense as a country? Let me know what you think.
Why do Indians excel in education, business, and technology, but fail when it comes to basic civic sense? From spitting in public to breaking traffic rules, India struggles with everyday discipline. Road rage, breaking signals, wrong side driving, India's traffic is a jungle. We lose 150,000 lives in road accidents every year due to reckless behavior. Who is responsible? We are. Taj Mahal, India Gate, railway stations. Why do we treat public spaces like garbage dumps? Millions in India suffer from water shortage, but many waste it like it's unlimited, leaving taps open, overusing water for washing cars. These habits are destroying our resources. In most developed nations, people patiently stand in queues. In India, it's a competition to break the line. Why can't we respect personal space and basic manners? Is it the government's fault? Is it the lack of education? Or is it just our chalta high attitude? The truth is, it starts with us. Civic sense is not about laws. It's about personal responsibility.
Okay, so I think all of us agree that this is something that all of us are responsible for. Let's start with you. Which civic sense issue is the biggest in your area? Can I ask Justin to switch on the poll for us, please? Quickly. Justin, can you put on the poll? Do remember to answer only in the poll. All right, you can see the poll in your chat. And if you can quickly give us the responses. Okay, so we have a few responses. Like I've said, my dear friends, you're going to have to keep up with me today, and I want a response from you very, very quickly. Yeah, so we're saying mostly it's poor waste management. That seems to be the one that's getting the maximum number of votes. All right. So far, I'm going to give it another 30 seconds so that, yeah, so poor waste management is what all of us are saying. I hope you can see the responses. It's given in your chat. Do remember to submit your vote. Yeah, most of us are facing the problem of littering and poor waste management. Some of us are also saying it's traffic, reckless driving, it could be illegal parking, road rage, the amount of fights that we have on road. The minute so we are driving, we are following the rules, somebody cuts in, it can be extremely scary. Right. So, as I can see, a lot of people are saying traffic, congestion, spitting, poor drainage, poor waste management. A lot of you have chosen to also respond in this. So, do consider that civic sense is not a school issue, it's a India-wide issue, right? Do we all agree with this? Okay. So, let's quickly take a look at first decode what are the foundations of civic sense. Now, I know Martha ma'am conducted a beautiful session last week, and she had delved with, this whole story about civic sense. Justin, you can close the poll now because I think we are done with it now. So, civic sense is the practice of socially responsible behavior that respects shared space, shared systems, and shared people. So now do consider the simplified version of this. It's doing the right thing when nobody is watching, especially in public spaces. And consider what this definition is not saying. It's not always about being polite, about following rules. It's about how we behave when we are in a public, in a community space. How are we really reacting? How many times do we, forget the children, do we stop at a red light if there's no policeman there and there is a red? I know for a fact that we are in a hurry, we will consider going through the red light rather than stopping. And because we always say, there's nobody there, I can't see a camera on top, let me go because it's my time, I need to save time. And civic sense starts right from there, right? So doing the right thing when no one is watching, especially when we are in a public space, that, according to me, is the simplest definition of what civic sense is. But here's where it becomes interesting. Like Nicey very nicely said, that civic sense needs to be understood from two perspectives. There are rules that are written and there are rules that are not written, right? So let's delve into this. What are rules that are written? Well, in a simple case, for example, in our schools, there are very clear rules that are mentioned. For example, in our almanac or in our diary, there are rules of conduct, there are discipline rules. If you're coming late to school, what will happen? If you pay late fees, what will happen? If you don't submit your homework on time, what will happen? There's a whole list of do's and don'ts for students. Now, these are clearly norms that are written out because we expect them to be followed and they are enforced in the school. What is the teacher's role? Obviously, it is to enforce the rules consistently. And we have to also teach the rationale. Now, the word consistently is very important. I've seen this during my observations with schools. Go to one teacher, child hasn't done homework. One teacher will say, it's okay, bring it tomorrow. Another teacher will say, no, stay back in the PT period and complete it. So are rules existing? When rules are existing, are they enforced consistently? That's the challenge. And this dichotomy is what the students take advantage of. That I might get away over here, but I won't get away with that teacher. So moving away from arbitrary punishment is important. But here is the most important challenge, and I want you to pay attention to it. Whenever we are fostering compliance with a written rule, usually children land up following it with minimum compliance. You're getting the term minimum compliance? They do just about enough so that they don't get caught, which means children follow rules only when they are being watched. Let me give you an example. In the assembly, children will stand in, neat looking rows. But what happens when a teacher goes out of the classroom and the other one takes a few minutes to come? Do you realize how much of chaos is there when the bell rings? Because those 2 minutes is when there's nobody there, there's no monitor there. Who's listening to the monitor in any case? And that's when children are, on their own. So what is happening is that they are respecting the supervisor, they're not really respecting the system. Food for thought, isn't it? Okay, let's park this. Let's go on to what are unwritten rules. So, unwritten rules are social codes that are understood but they're not announced. But these are unwritten rules, are the ones that actually define culture and character. And they are important for, developing emotional comfort and mutual respect. Now, here is where the teacher's role becomes extremely important, because how do children learn these unwritten rules? Children learn these rules from their elders. And who are in the lives of students? They are parents and they are teachers, right? These are the only two sets of people from whom they will actually learn these unwritten rules. We know for a fact, and I'm sure you're going to agree with me when I say that a lot of times parents don't always provide the right guidance at home. And they say one thing and do another. How many times have you heard the child mentioning, but my father has told me to lie? He's at home, but he's in the bedroom and he's telling the person in the door when the doorbell rings, say, I'm not at home. So a lot of times parents are not always, course they are so many times, but very often sometimes they're not. So on whom now is society resting to really develop the right behavior in children? What's the answer? The answer is the teacher. So the teacher then becomes the role model for the students. I'm sorry, this is a mantle that we've taken on when we've decided to become a teacher. This is the mantle that we've taken on. We need to be able to model the behaviors impeccably so that we establish these behaviors as routines and we are able to reinforce the dignity of all people in society. Okay. But what is the challenge in unwritten rules? The challenge is that unwritten rules cannot be graded or penalized. I mean, for example, the classroom says don't litter in the classroom, which means that the child will go and put the garbage within the dustbin. What happens during break? No teacher. The child will simply go and not put it in the dustbin, or even if it spills outside, he can't really be bothered. What happens? How does the child treat the person who comes to clean the classroom? Is he giving dignity to the child? And this is not written anywhere. Put the garbage in the bin is what has been written as a classroom rule. But treating the cleaner with respect may not be a written rule, correct? But we can't penalize the child because the child has not wished the didi or the bhaiya who's coming to clean the room. We can't penalize the child. But these unwritten rules really form the bedrock of character. And that is what today's session is focusing on. How do we develop character in children, and why are unwritten rules, why do they matter much more than written rules? The fact simple is that written rules create compliance. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that written rules are not important. Of course they're important because they create compliance, they create order, and we need order in society, we need order in the school, and of course there must be written rules, correct? But the unwritten rules, they develop character, they develop the humanity. So if the child is respecting the person who comes to clean, the driver who comes and drives him, or the lady who comes in their own house, or the person who comes to pick up garbage in their house, when they respect them, that's what we're teaching them, to be able to understand what are the unwritten rules, because that is what creates character. Written rules can be enforced externally because these are laws, correct? But unwritten rules are lived internally because they are coming from the culture. I don't know if you ever remember this very, very interesting, photograph that went viral some years ago, where after a World Cup, the Japanese people who had come to attend the World Cup final of FIFA stayed back, took bags, and they were actually cleaning the entire stadium. Who taught them this? Was it written anywhere? The answer is no. This was an unwritten rule. This is the culture that children are exposed to in Japan. Care not only for your things, but care for public spaces at all. This was not done by any other country, but Japanese citizens did it, and they established the benchmark of what culture is all about, right? So written rules tell us what we can do and what we should not do, correct? For example, in the bus, the rule will say, don't stand in the moving bus, sit down, right? However, unwritten rules tell us who we should be. What is the character of the person of our children that we want to develop? That is what that is what we want to kind of understand, and that is what unwritten rules tell us. So here is the challenge for all of us as teachers. How do we move students from compliance of written rules to internalization of unwritten rules? That is the challenge that we are going to talk about in the next section. All right. Now, it is important to understand why is there poor civic sense in India. We see the problem all the time, but I think it's important to kind of go a little deeper. When I was studying, I actually came across a number of reasons, but I'm going to talk about the top three. We have a paucity of time, so I can't obviously go into 11 reasons that actually exist, but I'm going to talk about the top three, which are really critical. The first is that children have not developed an internal compass during childhood, right? Which means that they are following rules because somebody is there to supervise them. It hasn't come inside them as a part of their character as yet. And so they develop pretty much a chalta hai kind of an attitude. Why bother? This is what is happening. Okay, even if I do this, there is no consequence. I throw the garbage in the dustbin. I don't throw it in the dustbin. I throw it outside. I don't worry about it. There are no consequences because the teacher does not know who's done it. I've gotten away with it. So why should I bother? The second is, I am happy to clean my table, my house, but why should I bother about the corridors? If I, throw something in the corridor, how does it matter to me? It seems to be somebody else's problem. And this is happening because there is no emotional ownership of public spaces, of shared spaces. Do you agree? That's what we saw exactly in the video that we talked about earlier. So this ownership deficit that exists lands up getting reinforced because a lot of time adults around us also exhibit poor behavior. And when they don't, reinforce the right kind of behavior, that's when the dichotomy in our mind starts settling in. Sometimes the environment is also sort of it also sort of reinforces this. Something is messy and it's broken, then the message that people get is civic sense doesn't matter here. It's all right to throw garbage. It's all right to do wrong things. Let me give you an interesting example. Just outside my house in the next society, a few years ago, but 2 years ago, the entire road of stretch of about half a kilometer was a garbage dump, and everybody used to throw the garbage over there. All right. One fine day, the society that lived next to it, they decided that, okay, enough is enough. And they created a beautiful, so they got the entire thing, the residents contributed. They got the entire place cleaned up and they got a beautiful garden laid out. And that garden is so beautiful because every day there is now a breeze coming, there are birds there, and it's just so pretty. And guess what happened? Everybody stopped throwing garbage there. Well, how did this happen? Because when environment signals it's okay to throw things here, everybody will do the same. But when the environment is cleaned up, then all of us think many times before throwing our garbage over there. And that is what makes the difference. So these are the top three things. The focus, where is it internal or external? The connection, are we connected? Or is there emotional ownership? And the third, what is the environment around us? So these are the three important root causes for poor civic sense. Now we've looked at the barriers. The question now is, what is the solution? So I have another question for you, and I want you to give me the answer in the chat. Okay? Which, according to you, is the single most important factor that would have the longest lasting effect on civic sense? A, B, C, D. Is it A, education? Is it B, reforming adult behavior? Is it improving public services, holding the government accountable, or is it increasing surveillance and penalties? What do you think? Okay, Ekta is saying A, Priya, Jyoti are all saying A. Ekta is also saying A. Lakshmi is saying B. Victoria is A. Vishali is A. Dr. Ashwini, Dr. Verghese is saying A. Good evening, sir, to you. Divya is saying A. Most of us agree the answer is education, right? We're all teachers. We understand that the answer is education. Most of you are saying A. Some of you are also saying B. But predominantly, we all agree that the answer is education. And what is the goal here? The goal is to help the next generation to understand what is their role in resolving this issue. Because remember, we are teachers. We don't do solutions, we don't take solutions for short term. We put seeds that grow into trees because we are nation developers, aren't we? So, with that in mind, the problem then is, and this is my experience, and please pardon me for saying this, a little hard hitting, but I think we need to sort of look at the truth as well. Most of the schools I've seen use some of these approaches. There'll be a moral science period, there'll be an assembly on being good citizens, there are punishments for violations, there are poster making competitions, there are slogan competitions, we have cleanliness drives, we have campaigns, we have monitor systems, sometimes rewards for good behavior. We call guest speakers to tell us about, give us inspirational talks. I know for a fact that when I was in school, good 45 years ago, many of these things were being done. And I know from my own experience of when I work with a different lot of schools, many of these things are still being done. Has anything changed? The answer is probably yes. And I'm not saying that schools, there, I'm sure amongst all of you, there are schools that have done phenomenal and beautiful things. I really wish there was time for me to go a little deeper and even get insights from you about what you have been doing. But the fact is that when we take small steps and when we take patchwork kind of steps, they create awareness and they create temporary compliance. But for me, if we want to impact India and we want to impact Indian civic sense, we need to think long term, right? And we need to look at what will create a permanent transformation. And that is what I want to talk about in my next section. That we want to bring permanent change and we cannot be doing the same things. We need to do different things. The good news is we have 15 years with our children to create irrevocable change in our students. Let's create our students and nurture our students in such a way that 15 years later, when they step out, they will not go back to being citizens who are littering, who are, breaking traffic rules, even when there is no one watching them. Are you with me? Give me a yes or a no on chat. I'm waiting for your answer. Do you believe we can do this? Yes. Give me a Y. Tara is saying yes. Next generation, I'm so glad. Monica, Gauri, Manisha, Arya, Martha, you're all with me. I'm so happy to know that we all want to work together. So, what I have done is I've put together a solution. I have two pieces of my solution. We'll share both of them. This solution is based on neurological sciences, on psychology, as well as pedagogy, as well as moral foundations. All right. I brought these three aspects together to develop a solution. This is what I want to present to you. What I want to do is for schools to look at moving away from compliance to character development using three pillars. So from moving from external compliance to internal character development, we need three pillars: habits, identity, and values. Habits, identity, and values. It is these three pillars together that will allow us to make this change from compliance to character development. Let me explain what I mean by each of these. So first is habits formation. So habits make behavior automatic. We need to make unwritten rules automatic in our children. Think of the time that you first started driving or making a chapati right? The first time I know I started making a chapati, it was like, looked worse than a map of, I don't know, Australia perhaps. All right. And then through practice and repetition, it started looking more like a chapati. And now I'm sure many of us, even if we are blindfolded, our chapati is going to look absolutely rounder than a circle. How does this happen? Because neural pathways have been formed in our brain. And that is what we need to do. We need to make unwritten rules automatic. And how will this happen? It will happen through consistent repetition. And by the way, research says it's not 21 days for habit formation. Permanent change in habits take 66 days at an average, and consistent repetition so that our behaviors become written from small pathways to a super highway to an expressway. It takes 66 days for neural pathways to become automatic and completely effortless. And how are we going to do this? We're going to do this through designing the environment so that right cues are visible, modeling it, and through repetition. These are our 3 steps. Let me give you an example. These examples that I'm giving are those that I have personally experienced. This was done by one Mr. Khan in a school in Delhi. This is what we put together, and Mr. Khan very nicely did it, what he called as the exit protocol. He found that children were running out when the bell would ring. And so what he did was, every time, 5 minutes before the bell was to ring, he would say protocol time. This is what he said. This was the cue he gave. The minute this happened, children would stand up, check their desk, put all the items in place, push the chair. They would stand, they would say their prayers, and then they would exit silently. And then the reward was that whichever, row, got the perfect thing right, they're the ones, that group was allowed to choose the activity the next day for their group project. 2.5 months later, it became automatic. So what do we need to do? We need to understand that rewards, and remember, rewards are just positive reinforcement. It's not like we're giving them a prize, right? So these 3 things. So for me, I think I want to challenge you. Coming Monday morning, pick up a topic that you want to create a routine in and do this. Cues, routines, and rewards. Plan it for yourself. The second one is about identity integration. So for identity integration, when behavior becomes identity, that's when it lasts. So we need to make unwritten rules a part of who we are. And for this, we need to have children develop ownership and reflect. So Miss Swarma in Pune, in one of the schools, she changed the language that she was using. So instead of telling children clean up, she would tell children, we are community caretakers. How does, who are we as community caretakers? We take care of our spaces. And, in about 3 months, when the sports day happened, she told me later, she says, Asllesha ma'am, you will not believe it. The sports ground was so dirty, and my class 6 just went on the ground and they cleaned it all up. And when a parent asked, why do you have to do it? The child turned around and told the parent, but I am a community caretaker. This is the ownership that we want in children. And can we do this? Yeah. And when this happens, we need to move towards values internalization. I'm sorry about the spelling. I just realized that there's an error there. We need to help children internalize the values. And what is this? Make unwritten rules morally necessary. So you had neurological foundations with habits, you had psychological foundation with identity, and now you have the moral foundation being set, which means that we need to help children connect behavior to the deepest of values: empathy, justice, respect, responsibility. And we do this by emotion, by connecting civic acts to emotions, by modeling respect, and by reflecting it. Now, this was done beautifully by a teacher in Ahmedabad, in one of the schools. When she realized that children were not doing the right things consistently, she called Kamla Ben, the lady who would clean the room, and then she had her share their story with the children. And then when children realized that by throwing the trash and by cleaning their desks at the end of every day, they were actually helping Kamla Ben, because she told them that when you leave chewing gum, when you leave dirty wrappers, I'm the one who is likely to get diseases. And when children realized that their acts were actually going to impact somebody's health, that's when the realization set in, and that's when value internalization started helping him. Remember, empathy, civic sense is nothing but empathy. When we develop empathy, the ability to see how your actions affect others, and if we can develop empathy in children, not just looking at others, but looking at them and understanding how your actions affect them, that's when values get internalized. And that's the real goal of what we want to do. So if you put this whole thing together, repeated actions, evidence accumulates. When you do repeated actions, habits get formed. When habits get formed, evidence accumulates. When evidence accumulates, your identity shifts. This is who I am. And when your values get activated, behavior gets reinforced, and finally permanent transformation happens. And that is the process of civic transformation. Now, how do you make all this happen? So while the three pillars gave you the how, the civic framework tells you the what. Together, the pillars as well as the civic framework is the complete system that I would want you to consider. What is the civic framework? CIVIC. It's an acronym. C stands for conscious conduct. Help children to build mindfulness in everything that they are doing, in their actions, but also in their choices. If you want to reduce the waste, help them to understand how to reduce the waste by not bringing plastic bags, by bringing and insisting on bringing a cloth bag. So it's a choice that we have to help children make. Second is to help children develop integrity, which means doing the right things even when they are not supervised. Third, value for shared spaces. Do you see how this is linking to my causes? Remember the three factors: the focus, the connection, and the third one was, does anybody remember what the third one was? Quickly tell me. I want to see if all of you were paying attention. Quickly tell me what were the three things that we had discussed. Quickly tell me. I'm waiting for your answer on the chat. What were the three things that we said? Rima, you're the first one who said it. Thank you so much for that. It was environment. So are we connected to the environment? Is the environment giving us the right clue? And you can see that the civic framework is also linked directly to those three things, right? You have interpersonal empathy, which is seeing through others' eyes. And last is citizenship in action, which means turning awareness into collective problem solving and service, right? This is like the highest form. So for me, this was a cascade. Start with conscious conduct, the first C, and go to the last C, which is citizenship in action. Getting it? Conscious conduct, develop integrity, value for shared spaces, empathy, interpersonal empathy, and last is citizenship in action. All right. Now, when we move to this, how does this whole thing get connected with the pillars? Because I want to give you a unified system. I don't want you to be, doing something and then not understanding how it all kind of connects. So when we're doing conscious conduct, habit formation is the pillar that we're referring to. Here's a suggestion for Monday. Look at any one routine that you would like to talk about. Develop 3 to 5 steps, cues, routines, and rewards. Integrity. Here you're actually integrating the identity. Change the language that you are using with the children. Instead of changing and focusing on behavior, focus on identity of the children, right? We are the people who of integrity, right? Change the way children perceive themselves. The third is value for shared spaces. You're bringing identity and habits over here. A very good idea would be to adopt a corner. So instead of just their class, give them a space in the school that the children of one particular class can actually adopt, and let children start adopting that place and start taking care of it from their adopting a corner, then move to bigger spaces, till there is collective responsibility for the entire school. So next time a child sees a paper which is not in its place, a child sees another child running in the corridor, then there are no monitors trying to govern their behavior because their values and identities have been transformed. Interpersonal empathy, this is values internalization. Invite support staff to speak about their work. You can do that. It's a simple thing, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And then finally, a month down, look at citizenship in action, where you can actually brainstorm with children one community project which they perceive is an important one. I'll give you an example of what something I had done with in one of the schools. We perceived, and this was in fact in Gurugram and some years ago, we perceived that children were that more and more construction was happening in low-lying areas. As a result, Gurgaon was facing the problem of a lot of silting that was happening in low-lying areas because of water not having places to go. So we made children actually do a project and look at Gurgaon's low-lying areas topography by going to the town planning department. And when they kept and they realized how Gurgaon is actually facing its problem of drainage. And thereafter that, we took up a project, created a charter, worked with parents, worked with the municipal corporation of Gurgaon, and actually helped them in creating the drains, cleaning up of drains, so that there is enough, the drainage system is improved. And this was just done before July, so that there was the ability of rainwater to actually get to the right places without causing flooding. It's a real life example of how a campaign can actually be done. And I know because we've done it. And I'm sure all of you would have fabulous examples as well. Do consider this as your first week roadmap. Monday morning, choose one unwritten rule. Tuesday to Thursday, look at designing of habits. Friday, look at identity framing. Next week, connect to values. In the second month, watch as unwritten rules become internalized. All right. So what were the big ideas that we actually discussed? We looked at unwritten rules create order, written rules create order, but unwritten rules create character. External compliance is temporary, but internal transformation is permanent. You cannot enforce unwritten rules, but you can cultivate them through habits, by making it automatic, by identity, making it who they are, about values, making it morally necessary. Do remember, it takes time, months to years, but once you have developed it, it will last a lifetime. And I can guarantee you with this. Start with one pillar, build one habit, frame one identity, and connect with one value. But start the transformation on Monday. We don't have time as a country. We need to get started on Monday. I know I'm starting because I'm planning to start with a community project in my own society and as well as with some of the schools that I'm talking to. I know I'm starting it. I know you would want to join in this movement. Are you with me? Give me a yes or a thumbs up if you are with me. And this is a surprise gift for all of you. I'd request Justin at this point to share a surprise gift. This is a complete teacher's toolkit for those 160 of you who have stayed right till the end today.
Ma'am, we have a question how can schools measure qualities like empathy, teamwork, and responsibility, which is important but not easy to grade?
So my suggestion is things like teamwork, because this is a skill, definitely can be measured. You can use a rubric for it. I'm wondering, why would we want to measure empathy at all? I think this is a skill that we want to develop in children. And I think this is evident through behavior and consistent behavior. My thought is that don't get preoccupied by assessments. My thought is focus on doing the right things in the class. You want to develop a child's empathy, go ahead and develop it. And I've given you a roadmap today of how you need to develop empathy. Empathy develops through habits. Remember, this is the roadmap. Habits, then you have identity, and then you have values. Only when you come up to the value internalization will you have empathy being developed. There's no easy way to do this. Many of you are asking over here, for example, I can see someone asking, share some practical classroom activities that can promote civic sense. I can give you like a hobby list of like 100. But again, I'm giving you the roadmap. CIVIC, civic and pillars together. Monday morning, start with one habit you want to develop in children. Cues, routines, rewards. Move on to identity development. Move on to values. Move on. So use this. C is conduct, I is integrity. Use the civic model. And I think, the document that I've given you, do take a look at that. You have my contact number. In case even after that, if you don't know, then if you're not able to do it, reach out to me. Ishita is asking, how can we promote empathy for special needs children? I love this question, Ishita, and I'm so happy that you asked it, because special needs children themselves require to develop empathy because they are where they are in their mental faculties. Now, difficult question to ask, because when you talk about special needs, it really depends on whether they are capable of even understanding what empathy is. Not an easy task. Not an easy task at all. I can't give you a one shoe fit all kind of an answer, because if the child has, for example, if the child is autistic, the child may not even understand what empathy is all about. And behavior training for children who have autistic spectrum is extremely difficult, because we know that they're challenged by behavior. On the other hand, if there's somebody who is physically disabled, but for them to develop empathy for others and not take advantage of their disability also is something that could be taken into consideration, right? Okay.
Ma'am, another question. Yeah. From Dr. Ashwini would like to know, how can we balance individual rights with civic responsibilities?
Okay, Dr. Ashwini, I'm asking you a question back. When you say individual responsibilities, tell me in chat, what do you mean? I can't answer this question till I understand what you're really asking. Civic responsibilities is all of us together. Individual rights, when we are talking about, I have the right to speech, but if I am impinging on somebody's civic responsibilities, so individual rights and responsibilities are actually two very different things. The Constitution guarantees us individual rights, correct? We have the right to speech, we have the right to life, we have the right to practice whichever religion we want. Those are our individual rights. But they do not impinge on, if you look at civic responsibility, so for example, I'm giving you a simple dichotomy right now. Diwali has just happened. Everywhere there were pandals, and I'm speaking about Pune, they were blaring, pandals, music blaring on top of their voice. There were people and children who were bursting crackers on the road. The morning after Diwali, the roads were littered with burst crackers. Is that an individual civic responsibility? That's the question I'm putting to you as an audience. My right was not. Rights are guaranteed in Constitution. My right to burst a cracker is not an individual right. It is my privilege to do it. It is something I want to do. But if it is impinging on the civic responsibility of littering, I think we need to think and rethink about it. So individual rights and civic responsibilities to me are apples and oranges. Both are important, both coincide, overlap, but at a point in time, individual rights are important. At another point in time, probably civic responsibilities are more important.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that well said answer. Ma'am, how can schools strike the right balance between enforcing necessary discipline and cultivating a compassionate and value-driven school culture?
Yeah, I think this is such a lovely question, Nicey, and I'm so glad that you've asked this. What is the fine line between discipline and what was the other thing that you said? You said discipline
and cultivating a compassionate, value-driven school culture.
Culture, right. So this is the crux between the written and the unwritten, right? This is the very difference that we spoke about today. Discipline policies in schools are always written. Who is imposing them? Teachers are imposing them, right? Teachers are enforcing them. Rather, I shouldn't say imposing them. Teachers are enforcing them. Very often, teachers don't impose these discipline policies consistently. That causes another set of problems. But the fact is, whenever something is enforced by the written rule of law of a school or of society, it is an external imposition. That is the start point. But if we want to make a school a value driven culture, that's when we need to move through the CIVIC that I talked about, because at the end of that, you will have the habits, you will have the right identity, and you will have the right values. So while discipline policies are written rules, our goal, if we want to see permanent transformation, comes when we go ahead with the three pillars and when we go ahead with the civic model. Use these two in conjunction to be able to develop your school culture, which is values driven.
Okay, ma'am. Yes. Thank you so much, ma'am, for that.
I think my friend Aparna has written another very beautiful point. Aparna is a great educator from Hyderabad. She says empathy for animals and old people is very important. I love that point, Aparna, and thank you for bringing it up. It's not just empathy for your own selves and for your fellow human beings, empathy for all creatures of this earth, for natural resources, not degrading them. I think it comes from all of that.
Yeah, ma'am. How can schools transform rule following from external compliance into internal conviction, where students choose to do the right thing even without supervision?
Yeah, so that I think was the crux of what my whole workshop was
but then
today. Let me repeat it again. Okay. In fact, let me do one thing. Let me show you the slide again. I'm sure whoever is asking this actually probably missed this part. So let me repeat it again. Give me a second to get this on. So I'm going to go on to this, right? This is your strategy. From external compliance of rules, you want to develop internal character, develop habits. All right. When you're developing habits, whatever you do, design the environment, model the behavior, reinforce it through repetition. That is the habit formation process. All right. And when you have to do it, you have to do it consistently for 66 days to be able to bring a clear transformation. This is step one. All right. Step two is it is not about changing behavior. See what I'm saying? It's not about changing behavior. It is about telling children. So, what we always do is we tell children, clean this, stand in line. What are we focusing on? What are we emphasizing on? Change of behavior. Somebody wasn't in the line. Somebody wasn't throwing the garbage in the dustbin. That is what we were saying, right? So from the behavior, change it to who are you as a person? Are you a person who respects the environment, on your own? Are you that person? Then I am a person who is an environment caretaker. I'm a space caretaker. Then that's the person who's going to clean up. I'm a person who respects, standing in line, appropriately. So I'm that person. So if you change from behavior to identity, then the transformation lasts. It means make unwritten rules a part of who you are. It becomes a part of your identity. From I should do this, it becomes I am someone who does this, right? And the third is values internalization, which means that we make values morally necessary. When civic behavior, behavior connects to our deepest values, That's when change happens. What kind of values are we wanting to develop? Values of empathy, justice, respect, responsibility. When these things happen, that's when the change really happens. So for this, you have to connect acts to emotions. Okay, connect the act to emotion. How did it feel to help somebody? You have to, teacher has to model out respect herself. You can't be expecting children to respect somebody if you are being critical of another teacher, or you are being disrespectful of the child's parent in front of the child. And that's why modeling comes in, and teachers have to be able to do this consistently, and then use reflection to link to moral values. If you are building in, and we call this metacognition, if you build in reflection to link to moral values, that's when every civic behavior, that's when children feel the values experientially and not intellectually. That's when the transformation will happen.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am. And we have one more question. Yes, often civic sense taught in school conflicts with what students see at home or in the public spaces. So, how can teachers bridge this gap and engage parents as partners in reinforcing civic learning beyond the classroom?
Yeah, I'm so happy you asked this question because this is very close to my heart. I truly believe, I truly believe that children are the agents of change. I truly believe this. Okay. Whenever we want to change society, we need to start small, and we need to change with the children who are with us. This example that I gave you about the second example that I gave you about identity. Uh, this was done by a teacher in Pune, and I've seen this. Okay, she started teaching children about who they are, and there was this child who went home and who would tell his mom, how does this make you feel when you leave a messy kitchen for Didi to clear up? So, what is the change that's happening here? The child has internalized an identity of not leaving things for others. All right. And that's the value that he's gone and brought about. What about the child who, the child, when the parents said on the sports field, why do you have to go clean up? So the child said, I am an environment caretaker. It's my school. So here is where the change starts happening. If we have children create an audit of the amount of water that is spent, or rather, I should say, wasted, not used, wasted in the house, and we have them do an environment waste audit, that's when the children will start bringing change at home, because they can then start talking to the parents about simple ways to save and conserve water. They can start telling the household help at home to not waste water. And Shalini Vajpayee has given a beautiful example. Would you like to read this out, nicely? I think this is something that is really nice.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. I wanted to share a community project that my son led as a school leader, where his team, under principal's guidance, got approval from the concerned authority and made the City Development Authority complex green by planting in the vacant areas of the complex. This activity helped them learn to believe in themselves, that youth can definitely bring about a great change in the society, and of course, the fact that they're responsible citizens.
So, Shalini, thank you so much for that very wonderful example. I mean, all of us together, there are 168 people in this session. That's Nicey and me. It's 166 people plus the two of us. And I think I know Justin is also there. So, if all of us together today decide we are going to start making a change, you know, every drop makes an ocean. Every drop. Don't don't undermine the value of the importance of the drop. There's a story about this person, this amma, I can't remember her name for the life of me, in Kerala, who created this whole street of trees. She started with one tree, didn't think about how long it would take for her to create a canopy over there, but did it. One single tree starts the whole thing, starts the forest. And one single tree makes the change. One person can make the change. Do we truly believe that we are change makers? Do we see that as our role? If we do, then I know change will happen. I am convinced about it. If one teacher today on Monday decides to make a habit forming rule, she will bring the change. And I know that this will happen. The question is, are you going to do it or not? Yes or no? Let's do it from wherever we are. Many of us are trainers. We don't directly deal with children. We can do it in our own houses with our own children, with our own set of staff. We can do it with the children, with the households, children. We can do it with the children in our community. Let's do it. I believe in the power of one person can make it. Yeah, Devika Amma. Thank you so much for that, Achal. That was a lovely. I'm so glad that you told me the name. You know whom I'm talking about. So I have a lot of convictions coming in. Raj Lakshmi Pillai is saying yes. Chandeep is saying yes. Ekta is saying yes. Monica is saying yes. Achal, all of us are there. I know we have a very motivated team. Think about it, Nicey. 6:15 to
Yes, ma'am.
7:15 on a Friday evening. There are so many things for all of us to attend to, but we've chosen to be here attending a session to see what could we do doing. They're not coming here because of me or because of you. They're coming here because they are passionate teachers who believe that they can start doing the right things. And I'm so happy that I'm in your company because I'm privileged to be talking here to you today, sparking a thought, igniting an action.
Yes, ma'am. So as a conclusion, is there one thing that you would like to, just tell our teachers about?
I believe knowledge is all out there, but change starts with action. Let's just start taking action. Let's just do it.